It is here. The fall sports season is upon us, and that means a new season of Inside Sports on WCL-TV. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Keller, your host for season 11 of Inside Sports. Antietam Broadband and Herald Mail Media are so excited to give you a closer look at high school sports in Washington County. Now, we know as fans, as parents, and as players, you see the teams and the games differently than we see them. We like to give you a different angle of the teams and events you care about from the insiders who cover them. You'll see a lot of the same things you saw in the first 10 seasons of Inside Sports. Most importantly, the insight and the analysis from our group of insiders from the Herald Mail Sports Department. You'll see a few changes here and there as well. We're going to get you involved in the show with a new social media segment this season. I'll tell you more about that later. Oh yeah, and a new host too. Well, I'm not new to the show. In fact, I was here for show number 1. It seems like just 10 years ago. Bob Parsoletti and Kevin Dunleavy are here to talk high school football next. Thanks for joining us on Inside Sports.
When you elevate nurses, you reduce an entire town's blood pressure. Specialized medical training means top nurses, top care. Meritus. Healthcare transformed. How do you give a patient healthier healthcare? Give her doctor, nurse, PA, and therapist the same health record. Introducing electronic health records. One patient, one record, one click. Meritus. Healthcare transformed.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
When it comes to hearing loss, who will be taking care of you? Audiologist Dr. Karen Hamilton is Hagerstown's hearing doctor, working to improve the quality of life for those with hearing loss. At Audiology Services, Dr. Hamilton focuses on evaluation and diagnosis to provide solutions for treating hearing loss. Using the latest technology, she programs hearing aids to meet your unique needs and ensures they fit properly and comfortably. Audiology Services participates with most insurance companies and will check benefits and file claims on your behalf. Dr. Hamilton and her team also serve the community through Hagerstown Hearing, which focuses on providing crystal clear sound in places such as theaters, churches, offices, and homes. Hagerstown Hearing installs looping systems that allows those with hearing loss to enjoy speech clarity and noise reduction, providing an experience like never before. To learn more about Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, call 301-790-3300. Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, providing crystal clear sound.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, getting ready to kick off the 2018 high school football season here in Washington County. And here to help us do that, we have two of the Herald Mail insiders, Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parsoletti. Guys, the season's upon us. Are you ready for it?
About as ready as I'll be.
Well, it's coming ready or not, right? There's nothing we can do about it now. Friday night is kickoff. We're going to start here kicking off our coverage with a look at some of the smaller schools in Washington County. And we're going to start with Hancock and Clear Spring, the westernmost teams out in Washington County. And guys, a lot of similarities between these two teams. Similar records last year, Hancock with 3 wins, Clear Spring with 1 win. Two of the smallest teams in the county, both new coaches this season, and both fighting that ever-present battle, Kevin, of small numbers. How do these small schools survive with such small numbers?
I don't know. I went out to a practice the other day and I said to the coach, looks like you got a good turnout. And he said, no, this is varsity and JV. So it's a battle between a lot of the schools here. About half of them have that problem.
And Bob, you know, we mentioned new coaches, Dave Mahaffey now at Hancock, and he's actually not a new coach. He coached at Hancock before, and so he's familiar with those small school battles and the number battles.
Well, I mean, I think it's something that you know, but you can't really prepare for. I mean, the biggest thing I think in all of these is that, you know, one kid gets hurt and it really has a domino effect because you got to figure out how to cover it and you don't have that many people to cover it with. So, I mean, being healthy in that is the biggest problem with it all.
Well, along those lines, Bob, and you talked to both of these coaches to preview them this year. Each year, those teams seem to have kind of that Swiss Army knife sort of guy that they put out there and do a little bit of everything with. Who are those guys for Clear Spring and Hancock this year?
Well, Clear Spring had with Justin Lowry, or Jordan Lowry, their new football coach. He's adopted the wing T, and he's adopted probably the truer version of it, where it's going to be a power thing. So he's going to be running a lot of fullback, and that fullback is going to be Dustin Fisher. He's moving from the line, and they're moving him at fullback to be the pounding guy, and they're also putting him at middle linebacker. So he's the linchpin. He's the guy that has to do everything for them because he's in the two most powerful positions for him. And then the rest of it falls on Cole Easterday, who's the quarterback, and he's got to be the guy that calls everything right, especially in a new offense and with a very young team and small numbers team.
How about Hancock? Who's that guy up there?
Well, Hancock is really going to depend a lot on Reese McLean. He's the quarterback returning. He's a junior. The offense that they're going to run is going to have a lot of run-pass options that are going to be called at the line. So he's going to be the guy that has to call everything and get everybody in order. And then he's playing free safety on the other side, and he's doing the same thing over there, getting everybody in place and moving things around, because some of the deception of being a small school is doing things and moving people around so that they can't peg you. So that's what's happening over there.
You know, if these guys aren't conditioned already, they certainly will be once the season gets underway and into mid-season. Let's go to Boonesboro. 7-4 last season, the only team to make the playoffs from Washington County last year. And Bob, this is a team that always seems to have a glut of skill position players. And this season, no different from before. They have a lot of guys back from last year at the skill positions.
They have a lot of skill positions. They have a lot of guys that have played before. Quarterback Josh DeRozier is back. They're moving Ethan Halabenko from the fullback to the halfback position to try to. He's gotten a little bit quicker, and he adds a little bit more because he's a little bit of a power runner. They're bringing Ivan Ragazaguria, and I blew that name, I know it. It's worse than mine. And he's going to be the fullback. And then it's going to be the true four guys running around in the backfield type thing for them. In the course of time, Clayton has changed things a lot. Sometimes it's a quick back thing. Sometimes it's the hard fullback running, that kind of like what Clear Spring's trying to do. Well, this one's going to be more of the quick back this year because of other people missing and moving and having to play different pieces.
Right. Well, so that's the story about the skill position players at Boonesboro. What about the line? We asked Coach Clayton Anders about that.
You're as good as your line. I feel good about my skill positions, but if your offensive line is just developing, or if it turns out, the worst case scenario, if your offensive line is not very good, all those kids with skills are diminished because they have to do too much. They have to block. In other words, there's no crease, there's no edge set, so it makes it hard for them to show you what they've got if they're running for their life, or if there's somebody in their face right when they get the ball.
So, Bob, sounds like there might be a little concern about the line play at Boonesboro.
Well, after losing two really foundation pieces in those two tackles, now there's a wide open, and there's some kids that have some size to get in there, but they don't have that experience, and it's hard to replace 305, when it comes as far as a big lineman. So a lot of it's going to fall on Jacob Feaster. He's the guy that played next to Nick Kidwell. He moves over into Kidwell's spot, and they're building around him. And they have an Andrew Springs who played a little bit and played a lot toward the end of the year. So they have guys that they can, use, but it's very, very, it's not as settled as it was. And considering you're losing a lot of the experience on that line, it makes it a little more dicey.
Boonesboro no stranger to that numbers game as well, and Kevin Smithsburg either. 4-5 last season, and they've had that battle against a number of players over the last few years. How are things looking out there in Smithsburg this year?
They've got pretty good prospects, especially considering they got Connor McEwen back as the quarterback. He sounds like the McLean kid from Hancock. He's going to be on both sides of the ball, and he's really good at operating that triple option offense. I call it triple option. Steve Lindsay calls it something else, but it's an offense where you got to do a lot of reading and a lot of running for the quarterback. So they're in good shape there. Sam Ewing, a wingback, is really athletic, tall. He'll rack up a lot of yardage this year. The line is very small, and that's why Steve went to this offense, because it's a line that it's designed to get upfield and try to make plays, upfield and get things going quick.
It sounds like the outlook in Smithsburg is bright in the backfield, and that seems to always be the case at St. James. They always have a bunch of skilled players there too as well. But Bob, the offensive line at St. James, really something to behold this year.
And I think that's going to be a major part on this, because they're in transition. They lost all their marquee players through graduation. Gone are probably guys that put up about 40 points a game. Between passing and receiving and running the ball. So they have a lot of younger guys there, but they have a line that puts together, and the guys are weigh between 250 and 340 on that front line. And it's all the way across. So, I mean, they're pretty proud of that line, and it's going to be one of those things. I think I don't know if you're going to see those 40-point games or 45 or 50-point games, but you're going to see probably a lot of 21-point games, and hoping that they can, hold on with defense.
So still a bright look down at St. James, bright outlook at St. James this season. We'll have plenty more coming up for you after the break. We'll look at Williamsport, North Hagerstown, and South Hagerstown.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
At Hagerstown Community College, we know that finding the right career isn't always easy, but when you find your passion, you can make things happen. Engineers solve problems. Educators shape the future. Healthcare providers save lives. Cyber experts prevent loss. Writers tell the story. What will you do? HCC offers more than 100 programs of study, so you can find the path that's right for you. Live your story at HCC.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, kicking off the 2018 high school football season here in Washington County, joined again by Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parcelletti from the Herald Mail. And we're going to talk about Williamsport, North Hagerstown, and South Hagerstown this segment. Starting with Williamsport, Kevin, it's 7-3 last year, so close to getting into the playoffs. And the keys from the offense this year go from Jacob Ball to Lincoln Ball. His younger brother played a utility role last season. This year, he's the one behind the wheel.
Yeah, he's going to look just like his brother out there over center, but he's a little bit different as far as what he does. He's not going to run as much. Jacob was a pretty good, powerful runner. Lincoln's going to dance around more and probably try to make more plays. And Tim Small, the coach, described Lincoln as being a little more able to freelance, and Jacob more of a ravenous, go get it, and just a different mindset from those two kids.
So we all know the Ball name down there at Williamsport. It's been there for a couple years now, but really the focal point for Williamsport this year is Taquan Johnson. He's a verbal commit to Clemson, and Coach Tim Small talked about how other teams game plan for the big man.
He's definitely somebody you have to count for on both sides of the ball. He's a big kid. He's every bit of 6'4", or 305 pounds, can move well. So what we've really tried to reinforce, last year he made a lot of plays kind of all over the field, and this year we need everybody to kind of do their job. So if it's we can play assignment football, and Taquan can take care of his assignment, and sometimes that may mean taking on 2 or 3 blockers. That may mean playing where else. And the other team's going to account for him. We think it's going to create opportunities for some other guys on the team too. So just looking forward to seeing him play within the context of the team and the game plan, and we think it'll all work out because we have some really good kids around him. So we're excited about that.
So that's kind of what Tim Small sees other teams doing in terms of planning for Johnson on defense. But Kevin, you've talked to Coach Small, and he has some other plans for Taquan Johnson this year, doesn't he?
Well, Tim really likes his offensive line. He's got a bunch of guys between like 230 and 260, 280 really. And so he thinks he can put Johnson at either running back, which he did a little bit last year, or even tight end, which is a scary thought considering he's 6'3", 305 pounds. but he's got the speed to back it up. He can get out in routes, and he's just a real special athlete. And you can't blame them for trying to use him in ways like that.
Quite the mismatch, a 305-pound tight end coming out into across the middle of the field. We'll see how other teams deal with that. Let's look at North Hagerstown. They went 4-6 last season. Greg Staines now, Bob, in his 4th season as head coach of the Hubs, and a guy like Scott Neal has played such an important role for the Hubs during Staines' tenure there at North.
He's one of the guys that Greg was talking about, that when he got here, he went after the 8th graders, started to get them to get involved. And I think Scott is one of those guys that because now he's a senior, and he is probably the center, the linchpin in this thing. He's going to be he's moving from quarterback to the halfback. Greg thinks that he's going to be one of the best halfbacks there in the county, and he's going to be doing everything for them on there. The Jaynaz Melendez is the quarterback. He had a shot at it earlier or during his sophomore season. Now he's back and he's a little more confident, and he's got a better feel for things. So they got a lot of things going for him, and they have a really big offensive line to work behind. So there's some things to really look forward to there.
Coach Staines also talked about the impact that Neal has on the Hubs defense, but he also talked a lot about linemen Jacob Connor and Christian Teague, and here's what Coach Staines had to say about them.
Well, I think that Jacob Connor is the best defensive lineman in the county, bar none. I think the last 3 years he's learned the position, he's learned how to play with his hands, he's got great feet, he's got a tenacity about him when he gets to the football, and when he gets there he's going to hit you. And we look for his leadership. He's a quiet person on the field, but he leads by example. He gives you everything he's got 100% of the time, 100% of every play. As for Christian, Christian's 6'5". He's learned how to play with his hands. He's plays within his pad level. I think that it makes it difficult for defenders to get to his body. He maintains well with his hands, and I look for big things from Christian.
It's a kind of a bold statement there from Coach Staines. We just talked about Taquan Johnson, a D1 commit, and he says Jacob Connor, bar none, the best defensive lineman in the county.
Well, he's got schools looking at him. Greg said that if he was 6'2" and 6'3", it would be a lot different field looking at him, but he averaged 8.8 tackles last year a game. He had 7.5 sacks last year. He's supposed to be a very strong technician. And on the Teague side, he's getting a lot of looks, but he's getting it more so because of his length. He's got like a wingspan on him at 6'5". He was a basketball player, so he can go out and go after things. But the one thing that Greg says is I wish he was a little bit meaner.
Let's go over to the other side of Hagerstown now and look at South Hagerstown. 5-5 last season, and our 3rd new coach in Washington County this year, and Kevin and Dave Lawrence. He played at South under Coach Greg Kellick, and he coached under Kellick. Then also Pierre, you kind of get the sense that he's been waiting and preparing for this for a long time.
Yeah, and that's the way to go, I think, when you have a guy who's really got the program going right with Toby Pierre, and I expect them to have a similar look to the way they've been the last few years, which is a good thing because they've been really good.
Very good the last few years. And Bob, kind of a recurring theme here today, a couple of big-time skill position players coming back to a lot of these schools, and that seems to be the case for the Rebels as well, both at quarterback and running back.
Well, one of the things that helped out South is the idea that they have the entire staff back, so they're not changing much of anything of what they did, and this is the stuff the kids have done all along. Timmy Townsend comes back for the 3rd year as a starting quarterback. He's taken a step forward. He's more of a leader now, and a lot of the running is going to revolve around Jason Sannon. He's the speed guy. He's quick. They have like 3 or 4 different backs to work with him. They have a few receivers. And one of the trademarks for South is a good line. A lot of change there, but they have about 2 or 3 guys that have experience that they're going to build around.
Okay, we'll be back with you here in a little bit. I'm going to tell you about our new social media segment coming up this season. Stay with us.
Frostburg's program at USMH was definitely closer to home, allowed me to stay at home while I had the opportunity to substitute in Washington County Public Schools. The scholarships at USMH really allowed me to walk out, being able to pay it off much more quickly and being able to pursue my graduate degree at a quicker rate. I would say to anyone considering USMH, allows you to build better relationships in the community and something that's definitely a great opportunity to pursue and leads to a better career.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. You may have heard me mention earlier that we want to get you involved in the show this season, so I'll take a minute to explain what we mean. The social media has become such an integral part of our lives, but we've mostly ignored that on our show in the past, and we feel like we've been missing out. And if we're missing out, that means you're missing out, and we can't have that. So here's what we propose. To steal a phrase, if you see something, say something. If you catch a shot of that 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, show it to us. If you get video of that game-winning goal, show it to us. If you see this, you've got to show it to us.
Oh, there's some strength, huh?
I mean, really, if you see that, you have to share. Here's how you can do that. We've been on Twitter and Facebook for years, and you can still find us on those two platforms. On Twitter, you can follow us, tag us, or get in our DMs at InsideSportsOL. On Facebook, you can find us and like us by searching for @InsideSportsNow. Now, the two new additions to our social media stable this year are Instagram and Snapchat. The audiences there continue to grow, and you know, we just want our little piece of the pie. You can follow us or tag us on Instagram and Snapchat using the same name on either app, @InsideSportsNow. There's really no limit to what we want to see: game action, crazy fans, post-game huddles, or something like this. South Hagerstown lineman Joey Jenkins had 3 chances to catch a punt in a recent practice. If he succeeded, his team would skip conditioning drills for the day and roll film. So remember, if you see something, say something. Show us you care and share. We're on Twitter @InsideSportsOL. On Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, it's @InsideSportsNow. Bob Parcelletti and Kevin Dunleavy rejoin me to close out the show after the break.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
If you add it up, 12 spots a year for 25 years, close to 300 different commercials I've used Antietam Cable Production for. In terms of the experience with the production department, you know, the truth is, you know, we've become friends because we've done it so often. The staff is very, very professional. They make it easy for me to do the spot. That's the biggest thing. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And it works. It brings people to the dealership. And that's all I can ask.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We're going to close out the show here today and in the future as well with just some open conversation about things that are going on here in Washington County and beyond, and bring Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parcelletti back in for that. And guys, a few things that are going on in the world of sports, the little regional world here we have, and the situation down at the University of Maryland with the football program there, the death of Jordan McNair earlier during spring camp, and the way things have sort of played out with Coach DJ Durkin and the university there. You've both covered college sports, pro sports, so you have a little bit of insight as to how these things play out. Kevin, do you see any way that DJ Durkin can come back as the Maryland coach, or has there been too much damage done at this point?
I don't think so. When you figured that they let go of the strength and conditioning guy, and he was the bad cop, good cop type of situation, they had to be on concert with what he was doing, the strength and conditioning guy. And that, I don't know how you keep Durkin, given that he was, those are the marching orders he was giving to that strength and conditioning coach. So I don't see it. I think you got to do a clean sweep.
Bob, do you see, with really essentially a coaching change this late in the game, this close to the beginning of a season, for a program like University of Maryland, which has really been struggling to get its footing lately? That's almost a death sentence at the beginning of a season for them, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, there's so much stuff that's going on off the field that takes away from what they're doing on the field. On Tuesday, the sports information guy quit, and he's leaving to go to George Mason now. Or George Washington, I think it is, but he's going over there. So I mean, that's another cog in that machine that's falling off. It's kind of funny because, as much trouble or as much grief that they gave Debbie Yao, things seem to run very smooth ever since they've changed and been more trying to be a bigger market and brand themselves more. They've gotten themselves in more and more trouble. And I mean, they have trouble with the AD. They have trouble with this coach. It's a really bad mess right now.
Yeah, sometimes bigger isn't always better. In this case, that may be the case. Let's come back into Washington County. Mentioning new coaches on the college level, and we mentioned it in the previews. 3 new coaches here in Washington County high school football: Dave Lawrence, Jordan Lowry, and Dave Mahaffey. Again, not a new coach; he's been there before, but new to the program this year. Who do you guys see, Kevin, first, having the biggest impact on his program this year?
I think Dave Lawrence, just because it's such a tough deal at Clear Spring and Hancock. Clear Spring has some talent back, but I think it's just going to be easier for Lawrence to be able to, keep it going and really kind of keep everything like it was before with South under Peer.
Right, Bob, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Jordan Lowry for the fact that with Dave Lawrence, he's got his staff around him. The kids all knew him. He didn't have to introduce himself to them. So it's going to be kind of seamless in there. So if he can keep the ship going. I think Jordan Lowry's bringing in a new culture. He's trying to get the kids to believe in things. He's trying to get people more excited about football down there, and they're really trying to get a brand in there. He's bringing in an offense that they can do stuff with. I think he can be the most impactful guy.
So we go from coaches to the players, and certainly the impact that they have on the game. And we mentioned Boonesboro, the only team from Washington County to make the playoffs last season. And Kevin, I know when you talked to Coach Tim Small down at Williamsport, he thinks they're close. And if they could have won a couple of close games last season, they might have been in. What do you think about their chances this year?
I think they've got a good shot at duplicating what they did last year. It's going to be, Boonesboro, that's the big game they want to win. They played a 7-6 game last year, lost it, and that knocked them out of the playoffs. I think they're really putting some emphasis on that one. And it'll be a similar matchup to last year, more finesse team like Williamsport against, the power running offense of Boonesboro. So it'll be interesting.
Bob, do you see any teams having a shot at the playoffs this
Well,
year?
I think with the small roster, so many injuries come into play there. I think the gauntlet is for Williamsport because some of those teams that used to be 3A moved down. I think it got a little bit easier for South, but they have to get off to a good start in order to have a chance. And, the single A is where you get the most, and there's just too many teams out there. I think the Garretts are both going to be good, and what's over in Cumberland. So Boonesboro is going to really have its work cut out for them, and they're going to have to get pretty solid quick.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us. Remind you to join us on social media, on Twitter at Inside Sports OL, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. It's at Inside Sports Now. We got a great season in store for you this year. Join us on game nights this year. We're going to have a live pregame show before our live games. Just be with us here on the Inside all season long. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.